Alright, Professor Jim Schultz here from my Finance 512 class. I wanted to go ahead and shoot a video here. As you can see, it's June 17th. It's about 7 o'clock at night. And I really thought, I know Rachel, you had asked for a video kind of explaining or describing what you see on your monitor tab. And as you can see, I am in my Thinkorswim software and I have my monitor tab opened up. And so when I thought about how best to do this, I said, well, Rachel asked about that, and Tebow was asking about, how to kind of build your watch list, which you see mine over here on the left side. So I thought, hey, let's go ahead and do a separate video just on those two concepts, right? Kind of constructing your watch list, and then also kind of what you see on your monitor tab. So here's the first thing that I want to go through. The first thing is this. Well, the first thing you need to notice is I'm doing quite well. And so my net lick is at 201,357, and so I actually did start with 200,000 just like you guys, and so I'm up about $1,300. A couple of my trades that were going against me yesterday came back today nicely, and so yeah, I'm coming after you guys. So anyway, so how do you build a watch list over here on the left hand side? All right, so when you open up your software, it might look something like this. Right? And so you have this kind of left-hand cursor down here. If you want to make this area of the screen bigger to work with, you can just minimize and maximize kind of that left-hand sidebar, right? And so what I like to do is you can build kind of as many of these little watch lists as you would like, okay? And they're really easy to build. All you have to do is like click on this little wrench, this little kind of socket looking thing. Click on that, and from there you can edit the watch list and change the names and all that kind of stuff. You guys are technologically savvy, so I know you can figure that out, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. But I have 3 watch lists that I take a look at all the time. So I have futures, and my futures watch list is always on the top, and I always leave it up here. And even if I don't feel like trading futures, it doesn't matter. The futures are important because when we learn about the futures section, this is going to make a little bit more sense to all you guys. But looking at the futures market can give you an instantaneous glance as to what the market is doing, as to what the various components of the market are doing. Okay. Now, yeah, you can look at the S&P quote and you can look at the Dow Jones quote and all that kind of stuff, and that's also fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit more of a cumbersome process if you do that. So what I have up here actually is this is my paper money account, so it's not in the same order as my real money account. I had to kind of make this on the fly just for the video. And so usually what I have is, let's see if we can do this. No. I usually have this guy on top, ES, but it really doesn't matter, so I'm not going to spend time on that. But some of the main futures that I watch are /ES. This is the S&P 500 future. NQ, that's NASDAQ. That's the NASDAQ 100, so it's the top 100 stocks in the NASDAQ. I watch oil, which is CL. I watch gold, which is GC. I watch bonds, which are ZB. And I watch the Dow Jones, which is YM. And I also watch volatility, which is VX. And I'll explain all these products in a little bit more detail when we get into the futures section. And so you'll have a better idea what all these numbers mean. These are just the prices of those futures at this moment in time. And so, okay, so my next watch list are the stocks that I follow. Okay, so if you scroll down, now this may not be the exact list that I have in my real money account, like I said, because I kind of had to make this on the fly for the video. The platform is set up a little bit differently. It doesn't carry over from real money to paper money, which I think is a little bit odd, but that's neither here nor there. So if you scroll down, you can see I've got, I don't know, there might be 40 or 50 stocks on this watch list. And so what I would do if I were you is, I'm going to do this a little bit more slowly because this will obviously be a video, so you can pause it and you can go back. If you want to know 40 or 50 of the most liquid underlying stocks that are in the marketplace, just copy the list that I have and make it your own list, right? So this is in alphabetical order. So I'll be starting with Apple, and then we go down to P, which is Pandora. And then if I scroll down, you've got Priceline and Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, U.S. Steel, Yahoo, right? And some of these stocks aren't even really that liquid, actually. Like Walmart is not a really great stock to trade. It's actually not that liquid. It's not very active, and that I'm going to teach you guys later in the semester. Liquidity is extremely important. It's very, very important if you want to do well, if you want to be successful, to only focus on trading the most active, the most liquid stocks. Because if you try to trade these illiquid instruments, what you end up doing is introducing problems that you shouldn't even have to deal with in the first place. But this is a pretty good list to get started with. And then the other list that I watch, so the futures is always up, and then I'm kind of always toggling back and forth between these individual stocks. And then if you click over a couple, these are the indexes that I follow, right? So these are like they're technically called ETFs, the exchange traded funds, and you guys will notice some of these are in your baskets, right? Like DIA. DIA stands for the diamonds, which is the ETF that tracks the Dow Jones, right? And so what's so fascinating to me about the financial markets are, and some of you may have this question right now, right? You're thinking, all right, Jim, like here's what I don't get. Up here you have /YM, which is the Dow Jones future product. So I could trade the Dow Jones futures if I wanted to, or I could come down here and I could trade the Dow Jones in the ETF. So how do you determine when to do one or when to do the other? Well, those are some things we'll talk about as the semester progresses. But you guys need to learn a little bit more before we can get to that spot. So DIA is the diamonds, EWJ and EWW. One of those is Mexico. I get them confused all the time. Let's see if it'll help me out here. Yeah, it's not really gonna. More info. Yeah, I don't really want to. I could probably figure it out here. Actually. What is EWW? Is that Mexico? So let me go to the trade tab. EWW. Yeah, that's Mexico. That's the Mexico capped ETF. And EWJ I think is Japan. Yeah, EWJ is Japan. So we'll go back to the monitor tab. But yeah, Mexico, Japan. FXC is the euro. FXI is China. You've got gold. You've got the Russell 2000, Nasdaq, silver. SPY is your S&P 500 again. TLT is our long-term bonds, which is similar to ZB up here. USO is oil, and then these bottom two, UVXY and VXX, are volatility products. And so I don't have you guys trading all of these in your baskets because I know the project is already overwhelming enough. And so I have to, I feel you guys, man. I know where you guys are coming from, and so I really don't want to make it so overwhelming that it's just a complete sea of confusion all the time. So that's kind of how you build your watch list. All right. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the monitor tab, and I'm going to kind of point out some highlights on this tab. And when I send the email to the class about this video being ready, I'll probably go ahead and link to the monitor tutorial that Thinkorswim created as well, so that you just have, kind of a plethora of resources. So the first thing you want to always notice are these numbers up here, right? Again, we explained what your net lick is in class the other night, so we already know what that is. Well, your option buying power just kind of shows you that's how many dollars you have left to allocate, kind of across the board. You might notice my stock buying power is greater than my option buying power, and that's simply because I have a margin account. So I can borrow money from my broker to buy more stocks if I wanted to on this virtual platform. And so that just kind of gives you an idea how much money you have left to spend, so to speak, how much money you have left to allocate. Okay, so the next thing that I want to go through is going to be your position statement, which is always right in the middle of the monitor tab. And so what this will always show you is it will show you any positions that you have open right now or any positions that you recently closed. So I had a ZB trade on. I had a bond future on yesterday, and I had that on, and it actually closed out this morning because futures are 24 hours a day. I think it closed out this morning while I was asleep. Yeah, it did. If I look up here, it closed out at 3:17 this morning, and so I actually was not awake, which is not too surprising given that it's 3:17 in the morning. But as I'll share with you guys in class next week, I do find myself getting up in the middle of the night very often to check the currency markets, and so we'll talk about that in class. But I was not awake at 3:17, and so this morning when this thing filled and closed out at a profit, that was really nice. So ZB is going to show on my position statement because it was recently closed. Because if you see quantity 0, that means I don't have anything left in that stock. So if I don't do anything else in ZB today, that thing's going to just disappear and it won't be here anymore. But Apple, Gold, SPY, and Twitter, these are all positions that I put on actually earlier today, just to kind of, I kind of really got started in the game, against all you guys today. I did a little ZB yesterday, but today I really started to kind of take it a little bit more seriously and get a little bit more active, which I think a lot of you guys are probably doing as well. Having learned, technical analysis, fundamental analysis last night, and kind of hopefully kind of excited to get started. So for Apple, if you click on the blue arrow next to each stock, it's going to show you what you have on in that stock. Now, puts and calls, these are option positions, and so these are going to make a lot more sense when we talk about options. So I'm not going to talk about that now because it would be confusing. So I have an option position on in Apple, I have an option position on in Gold, and I have an option position on in Twitter. Because like I kind of shared with you guys in class, most of my trading is options and futures. And so that's what you'll normally see on my screen. Every once in a while I might do some stock stuff, especially in the virtual account. I'll kind of dabble around with some stock. And so that's what I did here with the SPY. So I decided, so if you've had me in class at any I actually don't know if I've mentioned it yet this semester, but I will from this moment forward, probably many times. If you've had me in class at all over the last, 2.5 years, you know that I am the biggest bear you will ever find out there. I think the market is going to collapse. I think the stock market is going to be just a catastrophic free fall any minute now. Now, I've been saying that for 2.5 years, and so take that with a grain of salt. But I've had, I've been putting my money where my mouth is, both real and virtual, behind that statement. And so I truly believe with all my heart that the market is going to fall. And it's not because I'm un-American, and it's not because, I just want to rain on everybody's parade. It's strictly because of the mathematical properties that are in the marketplace right now. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the statistical analysis section. But it really boils down to a very simple concept. We are at all-time highs. We are at all-time record highs in the stock market. That cannot last forever, period. End of discussion, right? Look back over the last 120 years, and what will you see? It has never lasted forever. There are ebbs and flows, right? The market moves higher, and then it retreats. Then it has to retrace its steps. There has to be a correction, right? Well, in my professional, personal, emotional, physical opinion, we are long overdue for that correction. And so I am short the SPY ETF, which is the S&P 500. I am short 200 shares, which at a price of, the mark, by the way, just shows you the current price. So at a mark of 210, it's pretty cool to open up my virtual account and short 200 shares at $200 a piece, to drop a cool 40 grand when I would never dream of doing anything like that in my personal account. I am nowhere near that level yet. Maybe one day, but I'm certainly not near that level yet. And so being able to short 200 shares of the SPYs is always a good time, whether it be virtual or real. And so if you click on this, if you open that guy up, it will show you the quantity, if it doesn't already show you kind of on the screen. And so you have your quantities, you have your mark price, which is the current price of the stock. It kind of shows you the mark change, like for the day, or since we're after hours, this might be after hours. I'm actually not 100% sure about that. But one thing I want to point out about this position statement, and then we'll go into kind of your order screen, is some of yours, if you click on this, it looks like a little menu. You can toggle between the new layout and the old layout. You guys, yours might look like this, where it has delta, gamma, theta, vega. Those are all options terms that we're going to learn about when we learn about options. But if you have that open, I trade options every day, and I don't even really like this layout personally. I prefer what's called the new layout, and so this is kind of what I do. So if you want to follow along with what my videos will show to stay consistent with that, just click on this little guy over here. All right, final thing. The order, today's trade activity, right? If you click on, like yours might look like that, right? To where, it just kind of shows you your position statement. Let's move this down a little bit. Oh, that did not achieve the desired effect. All right, so the paper money account doesn't operate exactly like the real money account, but that's neither here nor there. You'll probably see this position statement. Today's trade activity is always good. At the end of the day, I always like to kind of, especially if it's a really active day, right? Like if you do a lot of trades, And a lot of trades for you might be 3 trades. It's all very relative, right? It might be 3, it might be 10, it might be 30. It all depends, right? It's all extremely relative. But I always like to kind of recap, like what I did for the day. So let's look. So if you click open your filled orders, right? There we go. Open that up a little bit. All right. So basically, I did five trades today, and here's what's really cool. It'll show you the executed date and time. It'll show you what type of a trade it was. And straddles and iron condors, those are options terms. And so don't let that confuse you. It shows you kind of what side you did. It shows you your quantity. This position effect is really helpful for keeping track of your positions. Right? Like if you become very active in managing your portfolios, sometimes you gotta keep track of all this stuff in your head. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it's really helpful to have software at your fingertips that kind of makes your life a little bit easier. And this makes my life a lot easier because it reminds me that, okay, the bond trade that I did this morning was a closing trade, so I am now out of that bond trade. And then all of these guys were opening trades. Okay, these are the underlying symbols. Those are the expirations, which again is an option term. That's why you don't see an expiration with my short SPY, because there is no expiration. I can keep that open as long as I have the margin to do so. And then of course the price that you did it at. And then if you look at your working orders, so what I'll do oftentimes, and I'll get into this more again when we get more into options, since the 3 things you see on your screen are all options trades. Oftentimes what I'll do is when I put out an options trade, I will have a profit objective already in my head, and it's pretty mechanical. I keep it pretty systematic, and that really streamlines everything from a mathematical standpoint. And so what I will do oftentimes is when I put the trade on, the very next trade I put on is a closing trade for that position, and I make it GTC, so it's good till canceled, and it's a limit order, right? And so even though these are options trades, the same rules apply with market, limit, stop. It's all the same. And so what's really nice is now I know that this guy in Twitter is working. I know this guy in Twitter is out there. So if Twitter ever achieves that profit objective, then the market maker is going to look to fill this order, which is really cool because, again, when you do this stuff actively, things slip through the cracks. We're only human. We make mistakes. And so trying to minimize those mistakes is a big part of this game. And so by doing this and putting this in, I won't even really think about, I'll be watching Twitter all the time, obviously, but I won't have to think about, oh, do I have an order in to close that out if it does indeed move in the direction I want it to move in. Okay? So that's a little bit about your monitor tab. That's a little bit about your watch list, and I hope this was helpful for you guys.